As I alluded at the beginning of the presentation, I think a conversation geared towards teenagers would not be complete without some conversation about social media. But as it has influenced kind of all aspects of our life, I think social media has I think I don't want to say it has caused anxiety, but I think it can be anxiety provoking in teenagers, particularly around college admissions. And again, this is probably not news to anyone, but the abundance of research shows that social media can lead to sort of unhappiness and anxiety. And it I think that what sort of the root of that anxiety is sort of the FOMO, fear of missing out. That I think when you see sort of cool things that are happening to other people, that it is hard to then not feel bad if you weren't invited or weren't included or chose not to participate. That can be a really tough emotion for all of us, and I think particularly for teenagers. And also that, and I think this is the even what I see more often is it's very difficult not to compare yourself to other people when people's lives are kind of broadcast on social media. That, if someone's mom posts this like great video of him, reading his acceptance email from Georgia Tech and you didn't get in, that is a painful experience to see that on social media. And so I think that this kind of goes back to that idea of allowing students to have some privacy in the process and keep what parts of it they want to themselves. I would encourage that, there are that, to the extent that you influence what your children post on social media, or what sort of you and your community encourage from your teenagers. I think that posting sort of happy news is nice, but just be very intentional about how you do it, because I think remembering that 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 as excited as you are, that someone might also be experiencing something really disappointing at the same time. I think that's just sort of helping teenagers to develop empathy for others, to kind of to when if you are in the fortunate position to have really good news, to be just sort of judicious about how you share it. But also, if you're maybe the person who hasn't gotten good news, that I think just being understanding of the fact that it is made worse by the fact that then you are sort of bombarded with these images of people who did get exactly what they wanted. I think as parents, it's important to be sensitive to that. And I think that I guess I kind of feel as if social media has kind of one helpful purpose in the college application process. And it is, I sometimes tell students, like, follow your favorite school, your favorite team on social media. It gives you kind of a cool inside look into that campus or that team or whatever. But when it comes to your own college application process, social media is not the place to be sort of discussing it. That it's really a much better conversation in person, and social media is sort of not the right venue. And so I think that again, I don't mean to say like, oh well, just tell your son or daughter that they shouldn't they shouldn't be on social media. Like that's not going to go over too well. But I think that having conversations with them about how to be sort of a good friend to others through what they post, and then also how to be a good consumer of social media, and understanding that what other people post is not a snapshot of their regular daily existence. It's a snapshot of the highlight reel, right? And so, and I think that's just sort of an important thing. And I think also, like, I'll give one more example. When I was at one of the high schools where I worked, I remember distinctly, it was sort of like watching a train wreck sort of happen. There were three students who were kind of going up to some lockers and talking, and these two girls were talking about the colleges that they were applying to, and they didn't know that there was another classmate of theirs who was sort of behind them. And I sort of overheard the conversation as I was sort of walking along, and the two girls were saying, were talking about where they'd applied. And one girl said, oh, school X, like, oh, over my dead body, that's my last choice. And the girl who was standing behind them had just applied early decision to that college, and it was her first choice school. And you could just sort of sense like she couldn't unhear that. It was so demeaning. And so I think, that was not even a social media example, but just that it is really hard not to compare yourself to other people, particularly when there's a tone of judgment involved. And so helping students just to understand that, like, you got to focus on yourself, right? This is no one's going to college with you. It's you, it's your choice. It's what's right for you. What's right for other people doesn't matter. Except your parents, of course, but that's like a really important component of this, I think.